Guild Wars 2 is an amazing game. As many people who have talked to me on Discord might know, I've been on a bit of a break from the game for a large chunk of the past year. I started playing Guild Wars 2 actively again a couple months ago, and it's been a great time, just like it always is. It doesn't matter where I go or for how long, I seem to eventually end up back on this game. You might be someone taking a look at Guild Wars 2 to see if it's worth playing, or you might already be playing Guild Wars 2 and just be curious of what some random guy on the internet has to say about it. Either way, I figured it would be fun to lay out what I think makes the game great and why I love it so much. So before getting into gameplay elements, I have to start out with saying I love the sheer entertainment bargain that you get when you buy Guild Wars 2. Like a lot of people, I don't like spending a lot of money to play games, and if I can, I tend to stick to games that are free or ones that I already own. If I do end up buying a game, it's because I expect it to entertain me for a while. And with Guild Wars 2, you can play the base game, which is essentially the game as it was originally released, absolutely free. There's no purchase commitment, there's no time limit involved, it's just about the best free trial you can get for a game. And if you do consider buying the expansions, you'll really struggle to find an MMO that comes close to providing the same value for your money. Right now, you can buy the Guild Wars 2 Complete Collection for $100 US, which includes all 3 expansions, all the Living World seasons, which are essentially DLCs that add new maps and story episodes. And that sounds like a hefty price tag until you consider that you're getting 10 years worth of content releases for it, and many hundreds, if not thousands of hours of potential entertainment. And if you understandably want to spend less, you can always just get the 3 expansions for only half that cost, which still gives you a lot of new content to play, the ability to use any specialization in the game, and free access to any new Living World episodes that come out while you're playing. And it also still affords you the ability to buy all of the Living World seasons that you're missing later on, and you can do that either with real money or in-game currency, which by the way is another awesome feature to have. So just overall, the value that you get when you play this game is incredible. Getting into the game itself, the first thing I think Guild Wars 2 does amazingly is eliminate forced linearity for progressing your character. A lot of other games out there have a definitive path that's already set for you to take to level up. In a lot of games, you do a quest, you get experience, and then you move on to the next quest in the line. Once you level up, there will be another area or quest that you can access, which will also progress in a linear fashion. And even in games that aren't as linear, there's usually a specific leveling strategy that involves experience grinding in one area. So there's nothing particularly wrong with structuring games this way, but a lot of games have already done it. And in Guild Wars 2, you're rewarded with experience not only for completing story missions and killing enemies, you're rewarded with experience just for exploring places that you haven't been before on that character. I've never seen another game that gives you a chunk of experience just for watching a short cinematic shot of the area. And in addition to that, exploring for experience isn't just an option to level up a new character, it's actually one of the fastest options to organically do so. You also aren't locked to exploring specific maps. Sure, you'll probably want to stick to maps that are suited for your level at first, but that still gives you 5 different options to teleport to and explore on a new character, right after you finish the first story instance. And as you level up, your number of options to explore will only grow until you reach level 80. While you're exploring, you don't find quest markers to chase around all over the map like you would in other games. You do find renown hearts, which are a little reminiscent of fetch quests, but I think Guild Wars 2 does them so much better. You have an NPC to help, and the area you need to help in is always localized around the NPC. You have several different options to help them instead of just one, and each heart will only take a couple of minutes to complete. Overall, the exploration aspect of Guild Wars 2 is just something I love. And even though I've already completed world exploration several times, I still find myself occasionally going back for a little bit of exploration nostalgia. And I guess I can't talk about open world gameplay without talking about events. So, while you're exploring or playing open world content in Guild Wars 2, you run into dynamic events, which are possibly one of the best designed parts of this game. Some of these events have specific times that they occur at, and others just happen randomly. If there's players in the area, they'll often drop what they're doing to start helping with the event, because events provide additional experience and other rewards for completing them. Some event chains give rewards that are attractive enough for players from all over the map to drop what they're doing and come participate in. And usually these are meta events, which are yet another thing that I love about this game. So if you're not already aware, meta events are large-scale dynamic events that are designed to be done by large groups of people. There's something that's fairly unique to Guild Wars 2, and they give you a really grand sense in the world. And they keep a lot of the older maps active even years after their release. I've never seen another game where 50 strangers will just show up out of nowhere and beat the hell out of a dragon's foot together until it learns its lesson. And even if you sort of had your fill of them as a veteran player, meta events are just really cool and unique from a design perspective. Now for the combat. There's just a lot to love about the combat in this game. From a general standpoint, it just feels good. I've played my fair share of MMOs, and the fluidity of the combat and the feedback that you get from animations in Guild Wars 2 just rises above most of the others for me. In addition to that, you also just have a lot more options than you have in other games. Your character's race doesn't give any sort of penalty or bonus, so you can choose whatever race you want without having to worry about it affecting your capabilities in combat. You have a variety of different weapon options that each have their own unique set of skills for each profession in the game. So a great sword on a mesmer is nothing like a great sword on a warrior. And with 3 expansions, you now have access to 3 elite specializations for every profession, which can feel drastically different from one another. My favorite elite specialization is Dragon Hunter, which is a glass cannon DPS class that does high burst damage. It's completely different from what you might expect from a profession called Guardian, which you'd generally assume to be only defensive and healing oriented. And I might not play many builds myself, but I love that this game affords a lot of different options to people who do. The best part about the large variety of builds is that a lot of them are interchangeable in in-game content. There's definitely advantages to playing specific builds in specific places, but generally, as long as you have one of the builds that can be used for that content and you know how to play it, you can pick the one that you like the most and you'll do fine. Then there's how healing works. So a lot of other games will make you use health regeneration items or have a dedicated healing source that you need to use to recover your health. And in Guild Wars 2, everyone has a skill slot dedicated to a healing ability. So you get more control over your own healing. And instead of worrying about health regeneration items, your health simply regenerates rapidly as long as you exited combat. If you do end up running out of health, you don't immediately die, but you get put into a down state where you can fight to survive or be rescued by your friends. And it's easy to take those things for granted when you've been playing for a while, but they're really amazing features to have, and you'll definitely notice them gone in other games. When you enter endgame content and do start designating specific support roles, it's not like a lot of other games. Support in Guild Wars 2 doesn't mean uninteractive heal spammer. In addition to some of them healing, supports first and foremost provide boons that increase combat effectiveness of their allies. Some of these boons are passively effective, but others need to be granted at specific times to be useful. Supports in Guild Wars 2 aren't something you just throw your friend on because they're not very good at the game yet. Supports are interactive and some of the most integral members of your groups. I've personally picked up my first support class recently and have been thoroughly enjoying my time on it. Now, I can't really talk about the endgame without talking about the level cap and the gear too. So once you reach level 80, you reach your maximum combat effectiveness that you gain from experience. So there's no having to grind out levels again the next time a content release comes out. There's no damage modifiers that you gain through the post-level 80 mastery system in this game. It's all gear and skill after that. And gear works in a similar fashion to the level cap. So exotic gear is sufficient for almost every piece of content in the game besides high-tier fractals, and it's generally cheap enough that there's little to no going out of your way required to get the gold for it. Ascended gear is the next step up, but it only has 5% higher stats, and the only place in the game it's required is for high-tier fractals. And the price tag to craft Ascended gear might be a bit high for new players, but it's still accessible, and doing the fractal content that it unlocks will refund the cost in a matter of a week or so. It's also the last gear that you will ever need to craft to have the best stats and have access to every piece of endgame content. Despite being much more expensive, legendary gear doesn't have any better stats. The only advantages that legendary gear bring to the table are cosmetic appearances and quality of life features like stat swapping and sharing the gear across characters. If you craft a set of Ascended gear, you're good to go, and that's that. I crafted my first set of Ascended gear in early 2014, and that same set of gear is still on my Ranger, and the stats that it has are still just as relevant today as they were when I made it. These level and gear systems are examples of what people commonly refer to as horizontal progression, which is a central idea to Guild Wars 2's design. So rather than grinding the next hottest set of levels and gear, you simply play different content, but at the same maximum power level. And this system is one of the things that I love most about the game. It doesn't really allow for pay to win to exist, and it means that the time you put into progressing your account will be respected by the developers when they make future content releases. And in a similar fashion, it means that there's no sense of fear of missing out on anything. A lot of modern games will attempt to use players' fear of missing out to keep them logging in and playing every day, even when they're not super excited about it. And while some of these are still good games, it's refreshing that Guild Wars 2 doesn't really do this. Sure, there are some daily-oriented rewards in the game, but there's nothing so special that you can't just skip out on playing if you're not feeling like it. Those daily rewards will still be there the next time you log in. The only major exception to this is festivals, but skipping those only causes you to miss out on some achievement points and a skin or two that most people never use anyway. It's really not a big deal to miss out on one because you can't or don't want to play. And that's awesome. If you remember, I started by saying that I'm coming back from a lengthy break, and the fact that Guild Wars 2 never had any limited time rewards trying to compel me to play when I didn't feel like it is something that I absolutely love about the game. But even though Guild Wars 2 has a horizontal progression system, that doesn't mean you just run out of things to do at level 80. So a lot of people looking at trying Guild Wars 2 will ask what the endgame is like. And I love being able to tell them that there isn't one endgame like so many other games have. It's amazing that players in this game get to choose from several endgame options depending on what they enjoy and what they want to achieve in the game. A lot of players end up getting charmed by the game's open world experience and just stick to exploring and doing meta events, even long after hitting level 80. Other players want a more challenging endgame experience and turn to instance group content like raids, strikes, and fractals for something that engages them more. Competitive players can take to structured PvP, players that want a more rugged PvP experience can play world versus world and enjoy three-way server-based PvP in more of a open world setting. Competitive players that don't care for PvP can try a variety of speedrunning categories from raid boss speed kills to unrestricted dungeon speedruns to world exploration speedruns. Players that don't just want to repeat one thing to get really good at it can go the other way and instead do literally all of the things by hunting achievements, which there's thousands of. You can always get into the economy and gold making side of the game and learn about all the different ways to grow your wealth in game through passive methods, grinding methods, everything in between. And of course, gold isn't very useful unless you have stuff to spend it on, so there's a variety of quality of life unlocks that you can work toward. Or you can hunt after shiny things to update your character's latest fashion outfit. And the ability to convert gold directly into cash shop currency and the sheer number of skins in the game only gives you more potential options to strive for. The stuff that I just rattled off has provided entertainment to hundreds of thousands of players all around the world for thousands of hours each. And even though I may not personally enjoy every endgame option in Guild Wars 2, the fact that players can use all of them to craft their own endgame experience is amazing. And the last thing that I love about Guild Wars 2, and really the thing that keeps me coming back time and time again, is the players. You can have a really good framework for a game, but it's nothing without a good community. And Guild Wars 2 has one of the best. There's awesome players that will teach you just about anything as long as you're willing to learn it. There's dedicated artists that are crazy talented and still making insanely awesome fan art about a game that's over 10 years old. There's players that make great communities and guilds for people to be in, and then there's just the friendly players that stop to res someone, chat with a new player, or get excited about stuff in the game. The community is also big enough to give you an MMO experience, but small enough to recognize people and carve out little niches for yourself. Since playing actively again, I've met several of you in-game during fractals, raids, and meta trains, and I love being able to just randomly have conversations with people that I meet while I'm playing. And a lot of people now know me as this sort of weirdo on YouTube that has a lot of gold in his wallet, but the truth is that neither I nor this channel would be here if it weren't for the players in this community. I came back to the game from a similar hiatus in 2019, intending to just make a few thousand gold, finish up a few goals I had for my account, and then move on to other games. And I ran into some of the most awesome people just by chance, ended up joining a guild and having some of the best times that I've ever had in a game together with them. A lot of them have moved on from the game, but a couple of them will probably still watch this video. You guys know who you are, so to you, you're all idiots and I love you dearly. Peanut says hi. For everyone else, thanks for watching and being part of what makes the game great. If you're enjoying the discussion style videos, I'd appreciate you letting me know by giving the video a like, and maybe even subscribing for more Guild Wars 2 videos in the future. And I'm a little curious now, so it would also be cool if you could leave a comment below about what your favorite part of the game is. Alright, thanks for watching.